Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. I'm Rob Hogue, State Senator from Cedar Rapids, and we are here today to launch a tour of Iowa to warn MidAmerican customers that you are at risk if the Iowa legislature passes House File 561, the nuclear financing bill, and we are here to ask Iowans to contact your state legislators and Governor Branstad to ask them to say no to House File 561. After this press conference in Des Moines, Senator Bolcom and I will be traveling to other communities in the state, Sioux City, Fort Dodge, Iowa City, and Davenport, where customers receive electricity from MidAmerican to share this warning and this request. And now I'd like to ask Senator Bolcom to make some comments about our tour.
Great. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Senator Hogue. Here's the warning we're going to be delivering to people across the state today. House File 651, if it becomes law, Iowa utility ratepayers will face significantly higher electrical rates because of the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars that we will be required to pay for the design, licensing, permitting, and construction of a nuclear power plant. Wall Street investors will not invest in nuclear power because it's too risky. So MidAmerican wants to change the law to force you, the customer, to pay for it. You get the cost and the risk, and while MidAmerican gets the profits, guaranteed under House File 561, without any guarantee that a nuclear plant will produce a single kilowatt of electricity. Here's how the bill works and how it shifts the risk to customers. Under current law, MidAmerican could take the risk of designing, licensing, permitting, and constructing a nuclear power plant. And when that plant begins to produce electricity, it would sell any electricity to recover the cost of building that plant. MidAmerican would have to pay the cost and take the risk of building a plant, and customers would only pay for the electricity if the electricity was ever produced. That's the current setup. Under House File 561, even as amended last week by the Senate Commerce Committee, the bill would mandate or require MidAmerican to apply for rate-making principles to design, license, permit, and construct a nuclear power plant. When approved by the Utilities Board, the bill would then allow MidAmerican to immediately begin recovering costs and profits from customers. In other words, MidAmerican would get to recover costs and profits for simply trying to build a nuclear power plant, regardless of whether or not that plant ever was built or ever produced any electricity. I'd like to turn it back to Senator Hogue to talk a little bit about some more about the financing risks.
Thank you, Senator Bolcom. And here's why this is such a big deal. The financial risks associated with the design, licensing, permitting, and construction of a nuclear power plant are enormous, in the billions of dollars. Design, licensing, and permitting of a nuclear plant by themselves, this is without a single spade of dirt being turned, by themselves, they cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And then if there was actually construction of a nuclear plant, after spending hundreds of billions on design, licensing, and permitting, the construction of a nuclear power plant would cost billions of dollars. The bottom line is, if nuclear is too risky for Wall Street investors, it is too risky for utility customers, the working families, the small businesses, the farmers, and the seniors living on fixed incomes that we all represent. So today, we are beginning to travel the state to warn MidAmerican customers about this history. Just a couple more points. Under the bill, if the plant never operated, there would be no refund of any money to customers. Yet, MidAmerican would be allowed to retain the profits it took during the design, licensing, permitting, and construction of the plant. And one final thing to really emphasize how important this risk is. In America's history, more than half of the 259 nuclear plants ever ordered have been canceled or prematurely shut down. So the risk of cancellation or closing of a nuclear plant is very, very high. And this is even more so true in this case because of the experimental nature of the plant, the so-called small modular reactor that MidAmerican has said that it wants to build. Now we know from polling data that more than 70% of Iowans are opposed to this bill. With the bill out of committee, it is now the time that Iowans need to call their state legislators and Governor Branstad and help stop this bill. Iowans, do not let special interests get away with this risky nuclear financing scheme that would benefit utility investors at your expense and that would expose you to the severe financial risks associated with a nuclear power plant. Call today. The numbers, I think we know them all well, but just as a reminder, the House, 515-281-3221. The Senate, 515-281-3371. The Governor's Office, 515-281-5211. And with that, I'd be happy to address any questions that people might have.
Senator Hogue, are you conceding the safety issue? It seems the points that you're making on this bill are the financial risk. Are you conceding the safety issue, or are you just focusing on this?
Absolutely not, Richard. Nuclear power, two things about that. Number one, if there were a nuclear disaster in Iowa, we would jeopardize permanently millions of acres of farmland and all the homes that people have. And that is a risk that I believe is unresolved and unresolvable. Second, there are waste issues. But here's the important point for customers. It's because of those safety and security problems that nuclear power repeatedly has had billion-dollar cost overruns. So they may say, well, we think this is going to cost $2 billion, even though there hasn't been a nuclear plant built in this country in 30 years, and the ones currently being built are going to cost tens or 20s of millions of dollars, right? Okay, but here's the problem. They get into it, oh, we need this additional safety feature, right? Which we all want. If we're going to do nuclear, we want it to be as safe as possible, but then customers are once again on the hook. And so it magnifies the severe financial risk to customers. It's not just a safety issue, it's also an economic issue, and they're both important.
It seems like you're focusing on the hit to the pocketbook rather than the worst case scenario. Is that your strategy? Hit to the taxpayers, ratepayers' pocketbook?
I don't think it's a strategy. I think it's an argument as to why this is really bad policy for the state. Really bad policy state, and Iowans can't sit back and let the special interests get their way. They need to stand up and tell legislators, both parties, both chambers, we need to stop this bill. I'm really grateful for all the other senators here today who are opposed to this bill, who are joining with us today, and we need to avoid something really bad from happening.
Last year, most of you here, I guess, wrote the Dear Colleague letter. Are you anticipating doing something similar this year, or issuing some sort of ultimatum to the caucus to prevent this from getting out on the floor?
I don't think any decisions about what we as individual senators are going to do has been made. I think every individual senator would have his or her own answer to that. We are going to continue, speaking for myself, I'm going to continue to advocate with my colleagues that we shouldn't do this very risky, very dangerous bill for the customers and the future of the state of Iowa.
Have you gotten any indication of how soon this might come up on the Senate floor?
No, I don't think we have.
Why not any Republicans stand beside you today?
You can ask them. We didn't invite them. I mean, it was.
Why not? There are no votes in the Republican. Right.
My understanding is there are Republicans who have said they don't like this. In fact, there was the drama last week where one specific Republican voted no in committee, and then when he realized that it was going to lose, he changed his vote from no to yes. And you might ask Senator Feenstra why he did that. Right? I think that's a fair question for him. And I would think all Iowans would be against this, Republican or Democrat.
I guess, but to Jason's question, wouldn't your argument be fortified were this a bipartisan coalition?
We are senators who are standing up. We talked to our Senate Democrat colleagues, invited them to join us today. And I think there is bipartisan opposition to it. I know that I've heard from lots of Republicans across the state that they're against it, citizen Republicans. We had heard and we saw that there was at least one Senate Republican against the vote, and when the chips were down, he switched his vote from no to yes. So yeah, I would think Republicans would be against this. I don't see why Republicans would be interested in a preemptive bailout of the utility industry and special rules. I thought they were against special rules and bailouts. So I would hope Republicans would oppose this bill.